good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. We just want to welcome you back to the Low High Podcast. I'm Sele.
And I'm Marcello.
And we just want to remind you that if you're feeling high or if you're feeling low, you've always got a place to go. Thank you for joining us once again.
It's good to be with our audience that we don't know who they are or when they're listening to this.
But we appreciate you nonetheless.
Yeah, we do. I feel the spiritual connection.
You know what I've been thinking about a lot lately?
Tell me.
Perception. Like, if you were to give it a rough percentage, how much of human life do you think is based on perception? I'm not talking about, the senses, like opinions, what you hear that somebody heard from somebody else, that kind of thing. How much do you think could be solved? How many misunderstandings do you think could be solved based on a direct conversation? Because so much of what we do and think is based around incomplete information. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. The percentage wise, I'd say 100%. I'm just going to quote Itachi here, and it sounds ridiculous, but I think they nailed it with this dialogue in like Naruto. Each of us lives dependent on our own individual knowledge and awareness. All that is what we call reality. One's reality might be an illusion to another. We all live in our own little fantasies. And I think that's completely right. Like, your life is literally a compounding of all of the facts and impressions and things that you learned from the people you were with. And you can only feel and experience the world through your own eyes and your own emotions. And somebody else is experiencing that extremely complex snowball effect, like domino effect, just as much as you are. And you just have no idea. We are all living in the same world, but we're all living in completely different worlds at the same time. And that idea of Sonder is very powerful. And I think, like you said, having a simple conversation, but approaching it through that lens would probably solve most of everyone's issues.
True. Why do you think it's so hard for people? Because it's not like people don't go out looking for information. There's a lot of people who, like, especially nowadays, that people do want to find the truth, but we very often find an incomplete truth. But when something sounds good enough, I think that's like, is it strange? Do you think there's our own biases that give people this willingness to take incomplete information? Because especially now, in the next few years, the advent of AI, because I don't know if you saw that Google video, right? The AI news thing.
Probably. Like, you're talking about the video generation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird because I get the AI has been a thing for like a little while now. We need to accept that, it's the future. But it's crazy to think that we're going to reach a world where you can't even trust your perception anymore. Because there was a point, because Pandora's box is already opened. Like, we've already passed the point where we can put the genie back in the bottle. So there's this kind of, I don't know if it's really like sunk in yet for like the general population. I hope that that sounded a little bit too much like genital. I meant to say general, but well, the population does have genitals, but I'm getting off topic. It's weird to me because I don't think it's like really fully sunk in yet that in a couple of years we're gonna live in a world where somebody is able to show you a video of yourself doing something that you never did, and it's gonna be real enough to fool people. We just can't be like, it's AI or it's obvious. It's not gonna be so obvious in the future. So perception is going to be, I feel like, damaged in a very irreversible way because online is becoming more entangled with the real world.
Yeah, dude. I would even say, I know you said in a few years, and I know this is a little nitpicky, I would say it's going to happen way, like in a few months. I'm sure you've been seeing some videos online of just, Google's new like VO3, people just generating vlogs, like very realistic looking ones. I do agree with you. We're going to live in the age where you have no clue if that video on your phone is real or fake. I think you bring up a lot of really interesting points as well. Like, obviously on the personal, much more social aspect, it's like, how are we going to have any idea of what's actually real or the truth? And I think we've kind of already lost that in a few ways. You hear it a lot with politics or news, like you can pick your own truth, etc. And I think I don't know when or why that happened. I think we just tried to attach like meaning or reason to absolutely everything that happens, right? Like as part of some larger web or puzzle that we can make some sort of understanding of. But there's a lot of things that just, I guess I'm kind of the belief that, things just happen. It's not necessarily good if it happens or bad if it happens. Like it just happened. You can take away from it what you wish, or you can take away absolutely nothing from that. And a lot more things are up to chance than we're aware of, right? Like, for example, I think I'm going to loosely kind of explain this, and it's kind of dark, but like when the US like dropped the nukes in Japan, it was not supposed to be, it was Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right?
Yeah.
Those weren't the original options. It was one of the nukes was supposed to go somewhere else in Japan, but one of the generals on the war board in the US, like he had a vacation in Japan a couple years ago with his wife, and he had very fond memories, and that's why he pushed for it to be like Hiroshima or Nagasaki as opposed to some other place.
Really?
Yeah, and that's just a complete chance, just a human chance that was not strategic at all. So in a sense, like that just goes to show something that should be strategic also just fell to this like human coincidence in a sense. And there are so many other historical examples where like this thing only happened because of the perfect conditions that let it happen, and it just so happened to occur. Things just, they tend to happen somewhat coincidentally. Like I would say almost everything happens at this point with how intertwined the world is coincidentally. Because there are so many factors and variables that we cannot possibly consider, or that can be considered, that lead to like perfect events for things to happen. So that kind of sounds like I'm saying like, oh, destiny and like, fatalism, but I don't believe in that either. I think it's really just, we are on a rock and there's billions of us and we all have infinitely complex lives and thoughts. And that's really impossible to comprehend, but the only way we can possibly do it is to attach meaning to everything. Maybe.
Nothing really matters like objectively, but it's all based on perception. So like everything matters?
I guess. I think, okay, I guess I have to apologize too, because I didn't answer the question like at the level it was asked. Because like, yes, I think, like you said, objectively, if you're asking that question in an objective way, absolutely nothing matters. Things just happen, and then people probably don't even really have as much of a choice to react to it as possible, because like we said, we're just big old libraries of our past, and that's pretty much going to determine like the choices we make in the future for the most part. It certainly determines the way we can even think about things. But on a more human note, like, yeah, things definitely do matter. I think everything can matter if you want it to. And in a big sense, I think we have a lot more control and power over our lives than we probably wish we did. You can totally decide to let things make or ruin your day. If you have the ability, you can just let shit go, or you can like really hold on to it for a while. I don't know. What do you think about it?
Like we talked about like so I've said like so many times, on a personal level, I think it's difficult to because you can't give an answer universally, because somebody out there is going to disagree, but that's the same
Totally.
like, nature as everything else. And I don't know if you've ever seen all those posts or the Reddit posts like, oh, what's trashy when poor people do it, but it's cool when rich people do it.
Yeah.
It's like that sort of thing. It's like, like, oh, like you're a kid, you go to the swimming pool and like you go into the water, it gets a little bit warm. Somebody's like peed in the pool. And it's like, it's a thing that happens. You accept it. You get out of the pool, but you're like, ugh, somebody peed in there, but you're not going to know. versus you're at the pool, some kid just walks over to the edge, pulls down his shorts, just starts letting it rip, takes a piss directly into the pool.
Yeah.
The reactions to those two things are going to be completely different, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a big difference between pissing in the pool and pissing into the pool.
Exactly. So I feel like you can kind of boil down perception to those two things, because the kid who's peeing in the pool, he's doing the same thing twice. He wants to pee in the pool. But how other people are going to see it is going to wildly change how like he's perceived, how people are going to react to it.
I think we can take this a little bit further too. Like when you're pissing in the pool, you're in it with everybody else, kind of taking responsibility, accepting the consequences of your actions, versus pissing into the pool.
Yeah. Oh, you're
more
right.
Sabotage.
You don't have to deal with your own pee. You're literally peeing on everybody else. You're peeing everyone's pants but your own. That's crazy. No, can you imagine like you're in the middle of a fight, somebody's like, yo, piss his pants, and they just start peeing directly on your wet spot, or just make a wet spot, make it look like, oh, you just pissed yourself, and nobody's gonna believe you, because they're gonna be like, oh, what happened? They're gonna be like, bro, some dude just came and took a piss on me and made it look like I pissed on myself. Like, it's like impossible to believe. And that's like the whole thing, how the truth is different for everybody. Because people are like, oh, I only see what I believe, or I only trust something that I can directly understand. It's why I think it's so easy to misinform people. Because if you hear something that, oh, that sounds true enough, or it's like, oh, I trust this person not to lie to me, like misinformation can spread like that really, really quickly.
Yeah.
So in the same vein, I think perception comes down to the completeness of information, what you can orient yourself by. And it's unfortunate, but people are always, like most people are going to orient themselves on incomplete information. And I think you made a very good point when you talked about it depends on just how much that certain thing matters to you.
Yeah.
Because most stuff, like the world is like really fast. We're getting bombarded with information constantly. There's a new trend, there's a new recipe you need to try. Something awful is happening in another country. And the thing is that because there's so much information coming at us in the modern day, right? Stuff that I feel like should really make an impact on us is just more info for us to like swipe past. And it's so crazy. And it's not like the internet's like free. A lot of people's online presence is carefully curated now, which is another thing about perception. Because bro, you're like a normal person. Like I'd feel like you shouldn't have to like it's crazy because I didn't really appreciate that era where people just posted whatever they wanted on social media because I was a kid. But it really is weird to think like the internet is kind of like social media for, I feel like, in a personal level, because I guess people still have like their private their like real accounts, because people have like Finstas and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But it's like, it's weird because, oh yeah, you want people to know that you're leading a double life. Like, bro, you are not Batman, bro. Like, it's okay to let people see the real you. Well, I guess not really, because everybody feels entitled to real information about everybody's life now, which I think is kind of weird and creepy.
It is kind of weird, dude. It's actually very weird, and I do agree, like wanting to know everything about everybody is kind of weird and creepy. I think it's kind of okay to curate your life in a sense online. Obviously, I think that, I guess you can always caveat it, but when people are saying, this is what you need to do to be successful, and you're kind of trying to sell a narrative or some sort of like ideology, I think it becomes especially dangerous and unfair. But yeah, like it makes sense that people don't post their real shitty days where I just stared at my computer and worked all day online. I don't want to remember that either.
You can't solve it by telling everybody the truth, because a world where everybody is super honest about everything isn't going to last more than maybe a couple days.
Do you think so?
The thing is that so much of like our society, because think about like what level of society we're not like lied to at, right? For example, the food pyramid. That's something that we learn about in the earliest years of our lives. That should turn out to be a scam.
Yeah.
Business people are lying to their partners and their customers every day. So many like relationships are built on lies. Like, because think about the stuff that people are like, oh yeah, this is actually like really, really good for you. And a couple of years later, and it comes out, oh, it's not. Because bro, cigarettes used to be marketed as being good for you. I feel like that should be like the easiest way to let you know how comfortable people are with like lying.
Yeah, no, that's true. So in this, can I ask you a hypothetical question?
Yeah, hey me.
So let's just say everybody was like stripped of all ability to lie and everyone had to just be 1000% honest and like blunt, almost like, maybe blunt's the wrong word, but just like there was no fluffing it at all. Everyone spoke like genuinely and authentically with their own opinions and stuff. How do you think that would go? Do you think that would push people apart, or do you think that would like create a better world? I know it's a really hard question to answer.
See, I feel like somebody would try and start a religion out of it. Something be like, oh, the divinity has removed all lies from the earth. But the thing is, you're not gonna be able to start like a profitable cult out of it, because you're not gonna be able to lie.
Yeah.
I don't think it would make stuff like if like the world at its inception meant that like, oh, nobody could lie, that'd be better. But like from a world where you can lie to a world where you suddenly just can't, imagine how quickly things are going to fall apart. No, because imagine how many people are gonna have their significant other walking out the door and they're gonna be like, oh, where are you going? And they're gonna be like, I'm going to cheat on you. The answer is gonna be way too many.
Yeah. But then too, that's actually really funny. Sorry, I kind of had a little delay there. Yeah, where are you going? Gotta cheat on you. Oh, what do you want to do today? Just leave me alone. Like, shit.
Like, I can't stand the sight of you. I only married you for like a social safety net.
No. Why do you want this job? I just literally want money. I don't care about it at all. Yeah, that would be insane. What a shift that would be. I think though, one of the big, because like you said, if you couldn't tell the truth, but how many people really believe in something that is just not true? Right? So like, it's kind of is the truth to them. And I kind of have this idea that more people are better than we think. I just think that the internet has really exacerbated this, like, people don't really think for themselves anymore, but they also don't take the time to fully understand the concepts that they're adopting in a sense. So you often get people just kind of echoing these like half-baked or half-understood words or phrases, and to think, and you know, like we spoke about this earlier, like people nowadays are just like, oh, woke is bad, but they couldn't really define woke. And woke has completely shifted what it meant when it kind of first came out, and like all the ideas around it, like just like people can't really explain a keto diet. It's like, oh, keto is good for you. And people are like, oh, keto is bad for you, but nobody really knows what it is. And I think that's really what's led to this more like false state that we're forced to live in nowadays. Just people don't even understand what they really believe in, but they still have to pretend like they do believe in something, or like they do understand. So they're just kind of like ride or die behind and just repeat these ideologies. Essentially, it's like wholesale ideologies. It's very strange.
Thank you everyone for joining us on the short little special that we did. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.